The first part of chapter 3 in the book of Abraham and the Pearl of Great Price is about relativity. It is not about a geocentric view of the universe, as some apologists claim. If it were about geocentrism, then either Abraham or Joseph Smith got it wrong. But as it turns out, Abraham 3 is not only scientifically exactly correct, but it was well ahead of its time when the book of Abraham was first published in 1842. Every verse from verse 2 through verse 12 is about the warping of space-time by large masses, exactly as predicted by relativity. And all these verses hang together in one nice cohesive unit, one nice package. They're all interrelated. Verses 2 and 3 are about black holes, warping of space. And then 4 through 10 are about the warping of time, which is called time dilation in physics. And then verses 11 and 12 provide some clarifying information. So please watch both videos, this one and the next one. This one is on Kolob and black holes, which is what Kolob is. And then part 2 is about time dilation in verses 4 through 10. And then a couple of clarifying verses. So let's get started. Abraham 3, verses 2 and 3. And I saw the stars, that they were very great, and that one of them was nearest unto the throne of God. And there were many great ones which were near unto it. And the Lord said unto me, These are the governing ones, and the name of the great one is Kolob, because it is near unto me, for I am the Lord thy God. I have set this one to govern all those which belong to the same order as that upon which thou standest. I've underlined 5 words or phrases in these 2 verses, and I think if we can identify or explain each one of these 5 items, then we can feel confident that we have identified Kolob. All stars eventually run out of fuel and die, and when they do, they become one of these 3 types of stars. Either a white dwarf star, which is our sun's fate, and our sun is a pretty typical star, about average in size. So that's our sun's fate in a few billion years. But if the star is a little bigger, about 1.4 up to 3 solar masses, it will likely undergo a supernova explosion and leave behind a neutron star. Neutron stars are extremely dense. They're composed almost entirely of neutrons. And if you had a teaspoon full of neutron star material, it would weigh 1 billion tons on the Earth. But if it's a little bigger than that, from about 3 solar masses on up, it will become a black hole. Black holes range in size typically from about 25 up to 40 solar masses. But there's a class of black holes called supermassive black holes that range from 1 million solar masses on up. In fact, astronomers have found a small number of what's called ultramassive black holes, which range from 1 billion solar masses on up. In fact, they found a small number that are around 20 to 40 billion solar masses in size. And so the conclusion is that Abraham's great stars, great meaning, great in size, the great stars would logically be black holes. And now that we understand Abraham's stellar terminology, we can proceed. Here's our task list. We need to explain or identify each one of the items on this list. And these are the 5 items that I underline in verses 2 and 3. Every galaxy has one and only one supermassive black hole, SMBH, located exactly at its center. Ours is named Sagittarius A star, or STRA asterisk for short, but pronounced Sagittarius A star. Sagittarius A star is a 4.1 million solar mass black hole. That's 100,000 times as massive as a typical black hole. It's by far the greatest star in our galaxy. Conclusion: Kolob, the great star, is possibly the supermassive black hole Sagittarius A star. Item number 2. What are the many great ones near the great one? An article that appeared September 12, 2016 on astronomy.com, the headline read, "Hundreds of black holes congregate surprisingly peacefully in a Milky Way star cluster. A globular cluster is a large ball of stars that orbits the center of a galaxy." Then a study by Columbia University researchers published on April 4th, 2018 in the journal Nature, probably the most prestigious science journal in the world. The headline of that one was, "New Study Suggests Tens of Thousands of Black Holes Exists in the Milky Way's Center." So, Sagittarius A star, the greatest star in the galaxy, closely surrounded by thousands of other great stars, is our candidate for Kolob. Item number 3, how does Kolob / Sagittarius A star govern whatever it is that it governs? Well, a study published March of 2017 in the journal Nature by European astronomers found prolific star generation driven by huge energy output from active galactic centers, that is, active supermassive black holes. You've probably seen images of supermassive black holes with these enormous jets of highly energetic material streaming out from the poles of the black hole. In fact, here's an artist's conception of an active SMBH from NASA. Each galaxy's SMBH is the first object to form in the galaxy. And early in the life of the galaxy, there's a lot of dust and gas around, which the SMBH feeds on. And when it's feeding, that's when you get these gigantic jets of very, very high energy material streaming out from the poles of the black hole. But as the galaxy ages, this material, dust and gas, tends to become depleted. And when it does, the SMBH activity tends to shut down and star generation ceases, although it may experience occasional periods of activity as it gobbles up a star or an occasional gas cloud that comes too close. Also, a January 2018 study by University of California, Santa Cruz, published in Nature, found, quoting from the article, SMBH activity controls star formation throughout the life of a galaxy. Also, computer modeling indicates supermassive black holes provide a stabilizing influence on their host galaxy. Scientists like to create computer models to simulate phenomena that they can't easily experiment on in the laboratory. So they create these models, and then they can experiment, so to speak, on the model. They can, they tweak this, they can increase that, remove something else, and so on, and observe what happens. So when they remove the supermassive black hole from the model, from these simulation models, or leave it out completely, the galaxy becomes unstable. It does not accurately represent what we see in nature. But when the SMBH is included in the galactic simulation models, then they behave correctly. So the conclusion is each galaxy's supermassive black hole is the first object to form in a galaxy. It does turn star formation on and off throughout the life of the galaxy, and it gives stability to the galaxy. So the conclusion is each galaxy's supermassive black hole controls, or we can say governs, the galaxy. Item number 4, what is the order of that upon which Abraham stood? Well, given that an SMBH exists at the center of every normal galaxy and governs the galaxy, it follows logically that all those which belong to the same order are the stars, planets, and other objects that populate the galaxy. And so the conclusion is the order of which the Earth is a part is the Milky Way galaxy. Item number 5, in what way is Kolob / Sagittarius A star nearest to the throne of God? Well, the short answer is that it's a portal out of our universe into an alternate reality where the throne of God is located. The idea of black holes as portals to an alternate reality or an alternate universe is a very popular idea nowadays in physics. According to Einstein, gravity warps space and time. In fact, we can think of gravity as a warping of space. So in this NASA illustration here, the two-dimensional surface, the grid, represents our three-dimensional space. So they have suppressed one dimension from the illustration. And the reason this is done is because it's so difficult to draw to illustrate the warping of three-dimensional space. So we suppress one dimension from these drawings. So the dip in the two-dimensional surface represents the warping of space due to gravity. In this case, the gravity of the Earth. In the case of a black hole, the warping of space is extreme. It used to be believed that objects that fall into a black hole get crushed down to a point of zero size and infinite density, called a singularity. But the latest black hole studies, and there have been quite a few of them in the last few years, indicate that that's not exactly what happens, but that at the center of a black hole, instead of a singularity, there's what's called a ring singularity, which is a ring of finite radius but zero thickness. So an object falling into the black hole will get crushed down to a very small size, but a finite size, not a point of zero size. And it may be able to avoid the ring singularity and get ejected into an alternate reality of some sort, or an alternate universe, as you see illustrated here. Let's talk about wormholes for a minute, technically called Einstein-Rosen bridges. Wormholes are tunnels in the fabric of space-time postulated to connect widely separated parts of the universe, or to connect our universe with an alternate universe or an alternate reality of some sort, by traversing a higher dimensional space, let's say, or a higher dimensional reality, in which many physicists now believe our three-dimensional or four-dimensional space-time reality exists, along with other realities of various dimensionalities. So there may be a five-dimensional space-time reality, a six-dimensional space-time reality, or other realities that exist within this greater reality that physicists call the bulk. On the right-hand side of the slide here is an illustration of a wormhole. And our reality, again, is illustrated by the paper, the two-dimensional surface, which is curved it's folded in the illustration. But note that a two-dimensional surface does not have to be planar. It doesn't have to be flat. The surface of the Earth, for instance, is an idealized sphere, which is, the surface of the sphere it's a two-dimensional surface. In fact, we can specify any location on the surface of the Earth with only two parameters, latitude and longitude, because it's a two-dimensional surface. Okay, so the pencil then is shown perpendicular to the paper, perpendicular to our, to the two-dimensional surface, which represents our three-dimensional reality. So the pencil is a higher dimensional object. In this case, it would be a four-dimensional object. If it were a three-dimensional object, let's say an ordinary pencil, and we wanted to illustrate it in this illustration in which we have suppressed one dimension, we would have to draw it on the surface of the paper. But it's a higher dimensional object, a wormhole. So let's say that Phoenix is at one end of this paper and Salt Lake City is at the other end, and we want to go from one to the other. Well, ordinarily, we'd drive along the surface of the paper around the bend to the other end of the paper. Or, in principle, we could jump into the wormhole and take a shortcut, like a fireman sliding down the firehouse pole in the firehouse. Here's another illustration of a wormhole. And again, you see our world represented by the two-dimensional surface with a wormhole perpendicular to our reality there, so it's a higher dimensional object. And the wormhole leads to elsewhere, and elsewhere can be elsewhere in our universe or an alternate universe or reality of some sort. And according to recent studies, black holes may function as wormholes or may be associated with wormholes, so that if you fell into a black hole, you may well emerge into an alternate universe, either by way of an associated wormhole or directly. Black holes as portals to an alternate universe or alternate reality is a popular idea nowadays among many well-respected physicists. In fact, Stephen Hawking said in a 2018 lecture that black holes may offer a route to an alternate universe, but he said it would have to be a large black hole, and of course, supermassive black holes fit that description. I'll leave a link to the lecture below. It was at it was in California, one of the universities, and I do not recall the exact venue, but I will leave a link to it. So, has anyone actually experienced or seen this higher dimensional phenomenon? The answer is yes. Joseph Smith, for example, saw, quoting, a conduit open right up into heaven after Moroni's visit. It's in the Pearl of Great Price. You can read it out in the history of the church. A 1982 Gallup poll estimated 13 million Americans had had one or more near-death experiences, which often include traversing a tunnel or, what the experiences describe as a tunnel, and similar terms. I heard one person describe it as a funnel. But anyway, for the people that have experienced it, it leads to a heavenly realm and a being of light whom they usually identify as Christ. I read recently where that 13 million Americans in 1982, that's closer to 20 million Americans now as technology progresses, and it's more common for doctors, medical people to revive individuals that have temporarily flatlined. Many mystics and visionaries have described a spiritual eye or a gateway of the soul in similar terms by which they have experienced visions of God. The famous early Christian visionary and theologian Augustine of Hippo called it the eye of his soul. Hildegard of Bingen, who was canonized by the Catholic Church in 2012, called it the gateway of the soul. And there have been many more people who have had these experiences. Many yogis have experienced this higher dimensional passage. It's more common, I think, than people realize. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you found the information valuable. Critics claim the Book of Abraham is a fraud. In fact, there are many videos out there claiming to disprove the Book of Abraham. But the science that's contained in the Book of Abraham says otherwise, and when we understand the science, we can counter the false claims. So please leave a like and share this around with your LDS friends and families especially, and let's get the truth out there. And for more information, you can go to my website. It's lightofchrist.com. That's light-of-christ.com, where you can download the paper from which I created the slide presentation. I also have a blog on a website, which I'm calling Science and the Light of Christ, in which I present modern science, as I did here, in various scriptures. For instance, the biblical creation story, the Lehi's talk on opposition in all things in the Book of Mormon, and so on. You won't find this information anywhere else except in my book, Faith and Physics, subtitled How the Light of Christ Bridges the Gap, which you can read about on my website. And if you're interested, you'll find a link to its Amazon page. It's only $2.99 for the ebook on Amazon. So, thanks for watching.